that Portland just likes to riot against the government, and it happened before the federal courthouse, and obviously now it's happening afterwards. And so we're going to see this continue as long as there's a federal government presence, and even if that were to go away, they would then just go after the local law enforcement.
Yeah, it's been happening now for going on, what is it, 7, 8 months that this has been taking place. Seattle's interim police chief has had enough, apparently, vows a crackdown after rioters got away with no charges following that violence on Inauguration Day. But this is what you're dealing with in Seattle. First, according to Seattle's police department, this is interim chief Adrian Diaz, it doesn't matter who is in the presidential office. It really is a matter of understanding the people are just out there for destruction. That's what they're about. When we don't have any form of accountability for people, and many of them that are coming from outside the city, that they will continue to do that destruction, and we can't have that. So what's it about? You heard Julio Rosas talk there. It's about destruction, chaos, nihilism, anarchy. Well, for many, the process, the destruction also, is a very malleable definition. It's hard to pin down. In fact, I want you to listen to, I'll read for you, what one of those protesters who marched on Wednesday night, Sheena, had to say about all of that destruction you see. Direct action, quote, is beyond the picket sign in the streets. It's taking that a step further, and it's willing to be confrontational if needed. Sometimes you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and make others uncomfortable, because that's where growth happens, really. I don't think you can be violent against a window. If you say everybody who does something that is perceived to be bad or makes me uncomfortable is a terrorist, I think people need to take stock of why they think that. So, Jedediah, it's not violent to crack out a window. But this is from the same side of the aisle that often says words are violent.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that property destruction is being minimized like that. This idea that if you're not inflicting violence on someone, another person, it doesn't cause any harm. I mean, these are storefronts, these are businesses, these are people's apartments, these are their homes. These are communities where they, send their kids to school and they go grocery shopping and they want to feel safe. So the idea that property destruction isn't terrifying when it's happening next door to you or across the street from you is just absurd. I think it's also very important to acknowledge and to repeat over and over again that it doesn't matter who's in the White House. They don't care. The talking point for a long time was that this was because, President Trump was in the White House. It was a rejection of President Trump. It was about Republicans. It was about, no, it wasn't. It was about the country. It was about our systems. It was about our justice system. It was about law enforcement. It was about the underpinnings of what we stand for, and in large part a rejection of that. And it doesn't matter. Now there's a President Biden, and look what's happening. So I think that's a very important distinction to be made, that these are people who aim to destroy regardless of what political party is sitting there. They don't care. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, I guess the next time I disagree with someone, I'll punch them in the mouth and tell them I'm helping them with their own personal growth. Ultimately, this is for you. I hope it benefits you. I mean, that's ultimately the perspective. Any violence is justified. And you pointed it out. Republicans or Democrats in Portland and Seattle, they're rioting against the government. You might say they have an insurrection against the government every night. Every single night you've got extremists on the street pushing it. Yet we have and Will, we've been talking about this in the break, an ongoing conversation about what happened on January 6th. No one's justifying that. But at the same time, we're starting to see new breadcrumbs of new phrases like domestic violent extremism. In fact, we haven't covered it much on this program, and we will. But there's a threat assessment being done right now by the DNI, the FBI, and the DHS that could be used as a foundation of a policy to go after domestic violent extremism. Not the Antifa type we're seeing every single night. What we're talking about is maybe supporters of the president, maybe people who are America First, who talked about Stop the Steal. They could be the focus of that, including their involvement of January 6th or regardless of it. It's a scary moment right now.
Yeah, if you look right now, you have Democratic congressmen like Hakeem Jeffries saying, let's do away with bail. Just put him in jail and lock away, throw away the key. And people like assistant former FBI directors are high-fiving that idea, high-fiving the idea of doing away with America's constitutional norms by the power of a definition. Meanwhile, we move on. President Biden essentially is discrediting the COVID-19 vaccine. He tells a group of mayors that